how do you connect with each other? And how do you make it a priority in your lives?
Welcome to the Kickass Couples Podcast. This is the place where we help committed couples who want to level up their marriage experience newfound clarity, hope, and confidence. We're Matthew and Kim, co-hosts and husband and wife.
In 26 years together, we've seen a lot and never thought it could be as good as it is right now. We're here to help you successfully navigate the messy, dirty, and wonderful world of marriage.
We believe all couples deserve and are capable of experiencing an extraordinary and fulfilling marriage. And each week, we're bringing you life lessons from real-life successful couples to help you grow and strengthen your relationship.
We'll get started right after this message. If you want to learn how to experience the best, most fulfilling year of your marriage, we invite you to order Matthew's new book, Kickass Husband, Winning at Life, Marriage, and Sex. You can get it at Amazon.com or visit Matthew's website, www.matthewphoffman.com. Again, that's Amazon.com or www.matthewphoffman.com. And now, back to the show.
Jerremy Newsome is a mission-driven entrepreneur. His aim is to provide education that frees the mind and improves people's lives. He assists his customers in making the right adjustments to their mindset, heart set, and financial situation, enabling them to attain everything they desire. Since 2010, Jerremy has been dedicated to assisting individuals in navigating their emotional journey through finances, professions, and interpersonal connections, leading to profound transformation in their lives. Svetlana is a divine light energy healer. She brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, having earned a doctorate in Metaphysical and Spiritual Studies. She is a certified Reiki Master, qualified as a life and relationship coach from Robbins-Madanes Training, and a Kundalini Yoga Teacher. She has dedicated her life to helping others heal and transcend. She does this through teaching her courses around the world. Svetlana is also a devoted wife and mother, raising two beautiful children with her husband, Jerremy. Join us as we learn how this dynamic couple has woven their unique talents and interests together to form a solid relationship of healing, growth, and unconditional acceptance. Welcome back to the Kickass Couples Podcast. We are excited to have a super cool couple with us today. We want to welcome Svetlana and Jerremy Newsome. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you. It's so good to be here with you.
Glad you could be here. Well, I got the privilege of talking to Jerremy, and it's Jerremy with two R's, which I love, Jerremy. I would have guessed wrong and failed the quiz, but his dad was Jerry, and it's Jerry and me, his mom. So I think that's super cool, and I love to hear meaning behind names. So we appreciate you sharing that. And two really cool, diverse people. And I think it's going to be fun to talk to you all today to see how you manage to come together and make one beautiful relationship. And we always like to start off by asking this question. So Svetlana, I'm going to ask you first and say, what do you think makes you and Jerremy a kick-ass couple?
Our commitment to each other, our big, deep, unconditional love for each other, and most importantly, trust that we have for our family, for each other, for the souls that we are, for our independent evolution in the world. And that trust of coming together is what makes us so kick-ass and so unique.
Beautiful. Thank you. Jerremy, how about you? What do you think of that question? I don't know how you followed, but I know you're going to try.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. So this is my dream woman, right? So I wrote her down, like I ordered her from the universe a few years ago. And I sat down with intentionality and said, okay, if I was going to be perfectly happy, perfectly satiated, if I was really going to be madly, unquestionably, unequivocally, and incandescently in love, what's the woman that would have to be in order to actually create that happiness and create that fulfillment? And here she is.
That's beautiful.
I love that you actually, created this list and you put in your order and you got exactly what you wanted.
Everything. And it was, we're talking 5 pages long. It was a long list, and hers was pretty long too. And this was done independently of each other. We didn't.
So you both did the same thing.
Same exercise, a few different months apart. Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow. What was the moment like when you guys shared with each? I'm sure
the
you've shared
list.
the list. What was that moment like when you exchanged what you had each created of your ideal person to be?
I'll start first, and here's why. Mine's more recent because I lost it in the move. We were moving different places, and anyway, I couldn't find it, but I had put it in an email reminder to myself on, I think it was Valentine's Day or close to Valentine's Day. I was like, hey, listen, if you're not in a relationship, as a reminder, here's the woman that you should be in a relationship with. So I resent it to myself. Thankfully, I always got things in backup. And so I just read it to her for the first time like 2-3 months ago. And it was really, really cool. Now, fortunately, I have known, she actually teaches a course called Limitless Creator, which is about proper, the rules to really, truly align to manifesting. And she shares pretty openly her dream man. And it's a pretty long, paragraph. It's a very, very, very specific. And she probably could memorize it at this point. But yeah, hers was first. She read hers. I found out that dream man that she wrote probably August or September of 2020, about 6 or 7 months after we started dating. And then she found out, I know I told her I was very specific on what I asked for, but we didn't read it until just a few months ago.
Wow.
It's a great exercise.
I love that. And I it's a great segue into, for your histories, right? What you were each like before you came to this union, and how love was modeled for you in your families when you were growing up. I think we bring a lot of that into our relationships. And so, Jerremy, what did love look like for you when you were a child in your home?
Love was not extremely welcoming in my house. Like, it was very, my mom loved a lot, and she would always mention it. Love notes, letters, poems. When I would go to school, she'd put a little love note in my lunchbox. But my dad had more of a struggle, really expressing his love to my mother, expressing his love to his other children, expressing his love to me, either verbally or physically or any of the ways, spiritually, emotionally. But I knew he loved me. I knew he would spend a lot of time with me. And it was one of those things where once I realized, probably in my mid-20s, that the majority of my life I was seeking his approval. Mm-hmm. Right? I was seeking his love. Everything that I was doing was in strife, and then to receive that, to pull that in. And it became very complicated when he died when I was 25. He died from prostate cancer. And so then it became even harder. And so I had to figure out how to do that relationally, even though he wasn't here physically anymore. So that led me down a very, let's just call it spiritual, emotional journey, where I'm doing a lot of deep inner work to try to heal and mend that relationship. And once I did, everything started really, really shifting. And that was some of the big, unique changes for me in my life. But
sure.
Growing up, I definitely do happiness, just not love.
And what brought you to the conclusion that, hey, I need to work on this? It sounded like you were in your early 20s when you really realized. What brought you to the conclusion that this is something I need to heal? This is something I need to work on? Because generally, we let those things go and we don't realize that we have to heal those wounds before we can move on and be in a healthy relationship.
Yep. I know the exact day. I was 24 and I had just gone to a Tony Robbins convention, which is where I met her. So we met the very first time ever 11 years ago, November 4th, 2012. And that was in Orlando at what's called UPW, Unleash the Power Within. So Tony Robbins, the motivational conference. And one of those days, he does something called the Dickens process, which is essentially it's a mind map of you going back into time and fixing a lot of the problems. And I was unaware how any of this worked, how healing worked. This was my first experience. I thought I was just going there to like jump around and like fist bump and high five people and make money. But he sends us through like an emotional journey of healing. And it was in that moment that I realized I had a lot of dark caverns to fill in with love. And ever since I realized that, I started going down more and more of that journey, because I just saw it. It was very visual for me. It was very, oh yeah, I got some problems. I need to fix it.
Sure. How about for you, Svetlana? How was love modeled in your home when you were a child?
So I was born in Soviet Union and then fell apart. So love, sex, money, all of it was pretty much a taboo topic we don't talk about. I grew up without a dad. But my mother, it finally landed to me that she is truly a source of unconditional love. Of course, I didn't see it then. I was a bratty teenager, right? I knew better than her, and we had our own struggles. I definitely, myself, my whole life kind of was looking for father's love and for that approval. And so it really came to knowing for me that there was no healthy modeling of love that I got to experience growing up. I didn't see it. I didn't see it in the friends' families. I didn't see it in social structures. I didn't have any friends that actually had good families. And I remember recognizing that I actually didn't know any role models where husband and wife were actually happy and fulfilled. And I realized that when I was already in America, I was already in my 20s, and I simply just wanted to find someone who have a happy marriage, because it was such a rare occasion. But I deeply within my soul believed that it's possible. And I wanted to have that for myself. And I wanted to learn what is required. And I was willing to go through any healing and any growth and any expansion that I needed to go through in order to really cultivate that within myself, find myself and my truth, and create an ideal that I actually never seen in my life.
So how did you learn, and where did you go to learn it if it wasn't modeled for you in a mother and a father?
So when I first came to States, I remember seeing families, and I remember seeing the way men was treating women. And I was like, oh my God, I can have that. I saw that equality. I saw that, wanting to help with the children, wanted to help with the child, with the household. And it was such a foreign concept for me then. And I was like, wow, that is so cool. Like, I would love an American husband. That was my moment at that time. I'm like, it would be so amazing to have someone to help you with life. Not like life depends on you, children depend on you, household depend on you, and then you've got to provide. And that was a lot that I grew up seeing. And so very, very incredibly, sort of the divine guidance, I received a life coach in my life. And at this time, I realized that she was a first true queen, a wise woman that came into my life. I haven't had an experience with women of such a magnitude before that. And my soul was searching for it and yearning for it. And when she came into my life, I knew that I had to do anything and everything possible to be with her, to coach with her. Because now I understand what I needed and what I wanted is to calibrate as a woman to her energy. I wanted to see what is possible. And I wanted to have what she had, just as the energy of a woman, as the grace, as the love. And she had 5 children, and it was a second marriage, and it was so beautiful, and she was so beautiful.
Well
So
done. Yeah.
I chose to stay with her.
Wow. That sounds like a fantastic example of getting what you need when you knew you needed it, and finding a way for it to manifest and come into your experience. Not far different from kind of the story that you all each created on your own about looking for that partnership. And that's a beautiful demonstration. It kind of leads really into, we have 14 pillars in our platform that we think are all qualities that really need to be present in a relationship for success. And we really try to focus on the first 3 that we call the 3 C's, and that's commitment, communication, and conflict resolution. If the commitment's there, then it shows up and really creates the foundation for everything else to be built on. So, Jerremy, I would love to ask you if you could tell me what commitment looks like in your relationship with Svetlana.
Commitment for me is, I'm trying to think of the exact perfect word, but essentially extreme and honest, obviously communication, but having her feel trust, because I've shared with her all of my past mistakes, past failed relationships, why they failed. And fun fact, they all failed because of me. It was all my fault. So when I'm aware of that situation and that issue and that challenge, commitment for me is letting her know and letting her feel, letting her see and be fully aware that she is my everything, right? She is all of my needs. She is the person I care the most about in this world. And her not only hearing it, but feeling it and seeing it. So we made a pretty deep arrangement pretty early on in our relationship after we got married that I would ask her as often as I can, almost every single day, will you marry me? And if she says no, we get full, complete, hey, all right, cool. Let's stop and let's have a conversation and let's find out why. Let's find out why that's no longer a yes. And I mean, the commitment piece is just, if she wants to look through my phone because she needs that to heal, she needs to look through my emails, if she needs to use my computer, if she needs to go to my bank account, I have nothing that's worth hiding at all. Everything is open. If she has the keys to my physical safe or my internal or emotional safe, she can open any parts of me and look at it with a flashlight or anything else she needs at any point in time. And that commitment to myself is also very easily able to release a lot of fear about hiding or being weird or being shady. Yeah.
Are you tired of feeling like you're living with a roommate instead of a lover? Do you miss the days when you were completely into each other, intellectually, emotionally, and physically? The truth is, many couples are struggling behind closed doors. Putting on a brave face for the rest of the world is exhausting. If you want to get back your joy, return to thriving, and take pleasure in your marriage, then Kickass Couples Coaching and Matthew P. Hoffman are here to help. Join us alone or with your partner and start taking steps towards overcoming the pain-filled obstacles and improving your relationship right now. For a limited time, we're offering a free relationship assessment call. Go to MatthewPHoffman.com/coaching to book your free call now, so you can start making real changes in your most important relationship today.
Yeah, that's so well said.
It is. Well done. We're gonna that's some good gold you just dropped there, Jerremy. And I love your concept of commitment. And I think it's not it's very personal and specific, and it sounds like it works well for you. How about you, Svetlana? When you think about commitment with your relationship and Jerremy, what are the concepts or ideas? What does that look like in your thought?
The word that really shows up for me strongly is devotion. It is being devotional to him and being devotional to the family. I remember it was in the beginning of our relationship. We took a trip to La Jolla, California, and he was on a beach and I was meditating, and I would look at him and I had so much love in my heart for this man. And I asked God, how do I love him? like, how do I show him my love? How do I really, really express this love? And I heard so loudly and so clearly, love him as you love me. And I took it with me. Like, I worship him as God every day. I look at him as a divinity. I am committed to him so devotionally. He is my center. He is my rock. He is my wall. He is my love. And I also love the word sacrifice, because the Latin meaning of this word is making something sacred. And so I remind myself of the dream that I've had in my heart, and I have in my heart always, the dream of that sacred family and the sacred union with my children and with my incredible man. And so the commitment for me personally, what really brings this light and explosion of it in my heart and in my soul, is being devotional to him and worshiping him.
That's beautiful. That's wonderful. And it's interesting. I think in all the couples, we just celebrated our 100th interview not too long ago. We turned 100 episodes. We're grateful for that. And I don't think I've ever heard, we've interviewed a lot of spiritual people, some Christians, some other faiths, but I haven't heard somebody say, I prayed and asked, how should I love him? And that's a beautiful, selfless expression of that. So I'm grateful, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. I want to move into the communication part of our 3 C's, because I feel like it's what really drives our relationship. When we communicate, how we communicate, are we setting aside time to communicate, especially when we're, busy with children and maybe working? And so are we really committed to connecting with each other? Svetlana, what does communication look like in your relationship? How do you communicate with Jerremy?
So we talk about things all the time. We spend time together. We connect all the time. And when it comes to, for me personal, when it comes to a conflict or something that I might not, or something that is triggering, that might rise up, I always go within first and try to find out, is it me and my stuff, or is that actually something that is taking place? Right? Is it something from my past that is triggering and it has nothing to do with him? Or is it actually something showing up that we can resolve? So I come to the clarity first, because I believe talking without actually communicating and having clarity for self doesn't go anywhere, right? Because the result is not going to be what it has to be for the souls to come together even closer and trust even more. So the first communication always comes within myself. And the moment I become very, very clear on what is taking place, then I come to him and I very lovingly explain how I feel. But I also know, and I know in my heart and in my soul, that he loves me so deeply and so fully and so completely that he would never, ever do anything to hurt me. Never.
Yeah. So your communication, what you're saying is your communication is safe.
It's very
you
safe.
You can be vulnerable and you're safe.
Absolutely. Very safe, very vulnerable.
How about for you, Jerremy? Tell me a little bit about how you feel communication works in your relationship.
So I'm a dude, which means communication is the biggest weakness that I have. And one of the rules that we've put in place is I'm not allowed to say the word fine, and I'm not allowed to not answer a question. Great example would be if she asked me a question, I have generally 3 answers that I can give for me personally. One of them being, I know the exact answer, let's talk about it at a later time. Or sometimes she might ask, how are you feeling? Which is the scariest question to all men ever. And I have to go, I do not know, but let me get back to you with an answer later tonight. I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know why, if I'm angry, if I'm hungry, if I'm sleepy, I have no clue.
That's fair.
Because we're going through like 6 or 7 emotions I've mastered, and I'd get back to her later. So I always answer, but I don't brush off. And I think for a lot of men, that's extremely important, is to just give women what they want, which is really that open communication, and them letting them know that they're a priority and that we care, and that we just need to figure it out internally. And so I like what she mentioned, it's a lot of communication. Both her and I, we start inward first, try to resolve whatever's feeling in here, and then we express it outwardly.
I love that you set parameters, though. And you know, Svetlana, you said, I need to at least hear, you know, one of these 3 things from you, right? And it needs to be a full sentence. And I need to know that we're going to come back to it at some point in time, right?
Yeah.
So you set those boundaries ahead of time. And then that way she knows that, okay, he's not just brushing me off, and we are going to talk about this at some point down the road. Maybe later, after you had a really nice lunch and you're feeling less hangry, or, you know, it could be you're just tired. I mean, I love that you brought that up, because I think it's really important for our listeners to know that a lot of things affect communication, the way we feel, especially, right? Maybe we are hungry, maybe we're tired. You know, maybe we just need to have some alone time. But anyway.
And I like the fact too, you know, Jerremy, you hit on something that I think is stereotype for men, and I won't say all men because I don't believe it and I don't accept it for me, and it doesn't sound like you accept it for you either, is that men struggle in being emotionally available and vulnerable in their communication, as opposed to being tactile. I've got it. This is what they need. I only get the bare minimum, move on, you know, achieve it, knock it out, and let's go. When there's emotion involved and vulnerability, it's harder. It's not fast and quick. And sometimes you're right, we don't know. We just know we're feeling a certain way, but we haven't connected and figure out why and what the driver is there. And I'm grateful that you said, do what I need to do so I can find that true emotion and give her what she's asking, as opposed to being expedient, brushing off, doing just enough to be able to move on and do what you want to do. And though that kind of behavior and that process is so valuable. And I think that people, you know, the more they hear that men can do that in whatever they need to do, people are different. Yeah. Some can respond right away and some can't, but it's critical that you're, and I want to laud you for the fact that you're taking the time so that you can not only give her what she needs, but really demonstrate effective and vulnerable communication.
Brother, I totally agree with you, my man. And I love the word vulnerability too, because there's so many ways to play into it. Because at the same time, I want her to know that I'm her rock, and that I would rip the heart out of a gazelle with my mouth if I had to. So there's still the standpoint of, yeah, absolute vulnerability. But if you push me too far, I'm a baseless man of men at some point. And sure. There's a level she's not going to just walk all over me as well, and vice versa. So the vulnerability of knowing that I can understand what emotions that I have, but I also don't need to show her all of them. I can go and sweat it out at the gym with my guys, and I don't have to bring her that vulnerability and that emotion. I can just bring her the real, what's actually there, and it's all. But yeah, man, I love that. I love how you mentioned that that's not the truth for all men. Men are becoming more aware that we need to share, and it's very healthy to do so.
Absolutely. It's a symbol of strength. And so I'd love to ask the two of you, can you think of a time when one of you just screwed up, made a mistake, or, you know, really stepped in it? How did the two of you confront it and work through it, and what happened?
That's awesome. Which one of mine do you want me to tell? She doesn't have any. So what?
That's not true. I screw up a lot too.
Man, I think one of the better ones, I will say this to her credit, she is aware that my number one need is freedom, number one. Number two, that all men, a lot of men, the majority of men have very fragile egos until they get stronger. So she doesn't criticize me when I do something wrong. The first thought that popped in my head when you asked that question was, it was our son's first birthday party. And, you know, she's doing the whole party. She's planning everything. And she gives me one task. She's like, all right, go pick up the cake. Here's the address. So I'm like, got it. I can do this. I go pick up the cake, and it was the wrong one. Now, she could have been mad about it. She could have yelled about it. She could have said, you're so stupid. You're so dumb. But she laughed because I did get a cake, and she realized that she never told me what type of cake. So it was at a local person's shop, right? It was at his house. So it wasn't like I walked in, there was notes everywhere. Shout out to the guy called the Bearded Baker. And so I went to his house. I just knocked on the door, and he's like, oh, you're here for the birthday cake. I was like, yep. He gave me a carrot cake. I was like, makes sense. I love carrot cake. I can see why she would get a carrot cake for his birthday. So I love carrot cake. So we take the carrot cake, I drive, and that was the end of it. And then turns out that wasn't the right cake.
And the gentleman is calling me. He's like, hey, your husband picked up our own cake. I'm like, okay, wonderful. So, and we were just laughing. Let's figure out how to get the right cake.
Yeah. And it literally was a super simple solution, but she didn't criticize me for it. She didn't say dumb, stupid. She just kind of laughed it off because really it's a 1-year-old's birthday party. Well, who cares?
At the end of the day,
let's take
it's
a breath
not
for a
worth
second.
having a knockdown drag out, right?
Right.
I don't know. I think that could have been emotionally damaging for him. You know, my parents got me this carrot cake on my first birthday. It was what a nightmare. Scarred me forever. Look what you guys did to that poor 1-year-old. It's a great story.
Precisely.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of understanding there. A lot of understanding. I love it.
I would love to speak to you
acceptance.
both. Right. That's exactly right. A lot of grace.
Go ahead, Kimberly.
I want to talk about intimacy a little bit. There's a lot of different kinds of intimacy, but when we've been together for a while, you know, we sometimes struggle with, or some couples struggle with a lack of intimacy, or maybe some of that intimacy has subsided a little bit. And I'm just curious, how do you keep that intimacy alive? How do you connect with each other? And how do you make it a priority in your lives?
So the intimacy is something that we play with all day long, and it is we are in a very playful environment. You know, kissing and touching, and really enjoying each other throughout the day, and making sure that we are connected. And I believe intimacy does, you know, for us, we had to go through a little bit of season when the baby was born and a little bit of postpartum, but before we even got into the marriage, we had a conversation about intimacy, commitment to that. We had conversation about how important it is for both of us. What needs to take place? How do we feel seen and loved? And we really do everything in our power to honor that commitment that we created for each other before we even got married.
Yeah. I think she brought this to my attention a few years ago, that intimacy stands for into me you see. And it's that awareness of having fun. It's when you're at a party and you're with your other friends, you can still show each other physical affection, right? You don't have to be at the other side of the room. I can run up to you and kiss you, or I can throw you on my back, or we can just like touch and play and just have fun, because life should be fun. Life should be an expression of love. But I will say this, and I think, and hopefully this is okay for your audience, but one thing that I made a commitment to early on before we had a relationship is I cut porn 100% out of my life, totally and completely. And that was one of my struggles personally, right? Being a single male for the majority of my life, that was a big, big challenge for me. And so when I overcame that, I realized that is a humongous nail in a lot of relationships, because if a man feels, oh, whatever, my wife doesn't pay me attention right now, I can just go and get my outlet over here, or vice versa in certain situations, that's going to create damage. And that creates hidden resentment, that creates more of a gap. And that's something that I discussed with her very early on in our relationship, like date 5 kind of thing, like really early, was, hey, this is my commitment to you. What's your thoughts on this? What's your opinion on it? Because then anytime I have cravings or desires, I get to express them with her, and I get to talk to them with her and ignite passion and ignite discussion and ignite intimacy as well.
Yeah, I love that you are
And
an
it is an
open book
area
about
that we can't.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
That is an area that we always pouring into, and the area that we are exploring and learning and leaning into. I personally just went through the 12-week container on sacred sexuality and learning even more about my womanhood and that energy that is within me and how to share it with my partner. And so it is definitely something that we keep very sacred in our family. It is very important for both of us. And we talk about it, we discuss it, and we grow in it.
Yeah. And I appreciate you opening up about that, because I do think, Jerremy, that the pornography issue is so it's out there, right? And it's everyone's focusing on that. I say everyone, but many men are focusing on that, and it can be divisive in your relationship. And so getting a handle on that, and the fact that you spoke to her about it and you were open about it and you were willing to just really be authentic with her in that regard, and that you've been able to continue that authenticity on in the relationship is huge, because that right there will bring you as close can be, right?
Yeah, and the safety to know that you can have that discussion is huge too.
Yeah, and she's not going to go anywhere.
I think that's the number one fear that a lot of men or people who are involved in that addiction use, is they're concerned that they're going to be castigated or torn down because of having that belief. And there is even in the book I wrote, Kickass Husband, one of the chapters is called No Substitutions. And in that chapter, we talk directly about pornography. And when you think about it, if you're engaging in it, you're substituting that for the person that you have said you're going to do this walk in life with. And you're saying that is either more important, or I'm willing to let it take the place of. And, you know, Kim and I have done counseling together. We've done a lot of things to strengthen our relationship. And one of the things that the counselor told us as we were talking about substitutions and some of the struggles that men have, he said, if you have a need, communicate the need to your wife so your wife can fulfill it. And that's it's a beautiful statement. And I think it's a great response to, well, what do I do if, or how do I handle it? And, you know, the person sitting next to me, I've been walking with for over 29 years. And, you know, why I want to do something that's going to bring us closer together and connect us, not put that nail, as you said, or that wedge and have it divide us. And so, you know, that's something that I learned as well. And I'm leaning to be vulnerable enough to communicate to her all my needs and give her the opportunity to be there for me in any of my needs, and to have enough love and respect to handle that the right way. And so thank you for bringing that up. And it's something that is a lot of people deal with. And I think people would make the claim that younger, you know, whether I wouldn't say, you know, millennials, but younger people seem to be desensitized to it and think that it's okay and it's not that bad and what's the big deal. And I think that we've done a lot of work in human trafficking in helping people that have been victims of that. And you learn that the sex trade, pornography included, is just such a big part of exploiting. There's no innocency in it, and a lot of people get hurt, not just the ones that are consumers. And so thank you for bringing that up. It's great to move through that and address it, because I think a lot of our listeners are thinking, you know, either it is an issue or it has been, or man, how do we handle this?
Yeah.
Are you struggling to maintain the emotional and physical intimacy you once shared? Do you feel like you're spending more energy finding fault and tearing your partner down instead of magnifying their good and building them up? Don't worry, you're not alone. Many couples are struggling behind a forced smile and an inauthentic happiness. You feel drained, unheard, and more often than not, unappreciated. The good news is it's not too late to rekindle the flame and strengthen your bond. I'm offering a free relationship assessment call to help you take the first step towards revitalizing your relationship and reaching your own relationship nirvana. Whether you come alone or with your partner, I'm here to help you create the space for a more fulfilling and satisfying relationship. Don't wait any longer. Make the changes you need to thrive. Book your free call today at matthewphoffman.com/coaching. And let's get started on your journey to a kick-ass relationship.
So I want to ask a question. I'm going to ask you guys to, Svetlana, I want to start with you. And I'd like to ask you if you could go back to your unmarried self and put your hands on your own shoulders and say, here's the one thing you need to know. What piece of advice would you give to your unmarried self?
Be patient and just continue with your path. It will all come through for you.
Beautiful. And how about you, Jerremy? What advice would you give your young buck self of one thing that you should know or work on before you jump into marriage? What would that be?
I answer this question a lot the same way, but even in different aspects. I was on a panel about a year ago on stage, and they were asking me, like, this was a financial panel, and they were saying, what would you do in your finances differently, and so on and so forth. I had a few real estate experts up there with me. And one of the real estate experts said that he would hold more of his properties longer and wouldn't sell them as quickly, and so on and so forth. Well, one of the answers that I gave, and the answer to this too, is heal yourself first. That would be what I would do. Because when I was, mid-20s, early 30s, I thought that it was the relationship that would heal me. So you find the right person, you pour in the right energy, you spend the right time with the right person, and she'll do all the work and she'll heal me. But that's the easier way out. And so if it's all about the internal journey of understanding where you are and who you are and how to grow, I realize as much as I love her, I don't need her in my life in order to heal. I can do that myself. I don't need my wife to be the person that makes me whole. I can do that all by myself. And now I get to share my wholeness and my completeness with her, which makes it even more better, in my opinion.
Yeah. Sure.
So what is the one non-negotiable self practice that you each do that you have to have for yourself? I'm sure you each have one of those.
Yeah, I'll let you go first, baby.
Well, for me, it's simple. It's meditation, right? So I absolutely have to meditate, really tap into the light every single day to have that within me, to have that source within me, so I can pour into my, into my husband, into my children, into my work, into my clients, and everything that I do. So that is my non-negotiable. That is, I always do every single day. I tap into divine.
Yeah, and the reason I was laughing for me is every single month I have something else that's popping up from a physical standpoint. So I've created monthly challenges for myself that the non-negotiable for me is I have to do hard things. And that's because the rest of my life is easy. All of my life is so easy, right? My relationship is easy. Money is easy. Accomplishments easy. Love is easy. So I have to choose hard things. And so every single month or every single quarter, I pick something ridiculous that I have to go do that's a non-negotiable. And I tell her as far in advance as I can because it's usually going to involve me being gone for days or weeks at a time. And it's usually outside. It's usually some type of very, very hard endurance sport of some kind. A great example would be in January and February, I was training for jump ropes. So I was doing thousands of jump ropes every day. Something I was putting my body through, and that was hours every day.
When you ask that question, it makes me think, I would love for you to share what's the last hard challenge you did, or what's the next?
I can do both. I can talk about both. So the next one is an Ironman in Utah with the Iron Cowboy. So James, the Iron Cowboy Lawrence, he's the current world record holder for doing 101 Ironman in a row. So I'll be doing an Ironman with him in Utah. And then my most recent one was the jump ropes for sure. So I was training to do 14,200 jump ropes in a day, which pretty much took all day. And that was raising money for charity. So it sucked. It was not fun.
Ooh,
wow,
that's a hard thing.
I can feel the intensity right through the
the
computer
the
here,
gaze.
Jeremy. Man, but Svetlana's smiling, so she's smiling. It must be all good. I love that.
Well, she liked that one because I was in the house the whole time, so she was able to see me.
Yes,
and
you were.
So I didn't have to be outside running. Yep.
And when I share example of my dream man that I created, it's really example of Jerremy. I have there that he is an athlete. And I had in my mind when I was writing it down that it would be some kind of like Iron Man type of athlete guy. And so when people ask me, how do you do it? How do you support all of his, 100 miles or any other crazy things that he does? I say, it's in my dream. I asked for it. So I support all of it, and I just love.
That's great. Well, you guys have been so wonderful with your time, and we have really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better. Thank you for being so transparent and open and sharing. If people want to know more about you or connect with you or find you, where should they go?
I think the best place to reach out to my wife, she has a website where she pours in light, love, and happiness into the world, and most specifically, metaphysical healing. So her website is thelightfreedom.com, and you can get a lot of her free meditations and tons of her free courses there. And the second best place is really just reach out to us on social media. We have a really great team that can help us with connecting anybody. We're both Googleable, I guess is a good word. So if someone ever, just like you two, right? If they Google you, they'll find your podcast and all the things that you do. And just like I did, and then hopefully this is a shout out to your greatness, Matthew and Kimberly, but I just simply emailed Matthew and he messaged me back that day. And so sometimes it's just asking, it's reaching out, it's connecting, it's just chatting with people and remembering that we're all human and we just want to have a human experience. So be together with people and reach out. So if you reach out to us, we'll message you back.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you. We've loved being with you guys today.
It's been a great interview, and you guys have really been open and genuine with us, and we really appreciate that. A lot of good fruit for our listeners today. Woohoo!
Yeah, well done. We enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to connecting with you guys again very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all we've got for this episode of the Kickass Couples Podcast. If you like the content of this show, you'll love Matthew's newly released book, Kickass Husband, Winning at Life, Marriage, and Sex. To receive a digital mini book of quotes and images from the book, all you have to do is rate this show and leave a review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen. Then email us a screenshot of your review at podcast@kickasscouplespodcast.com, and we'll get it over to you right away. Until next time, remember, happily ever after doesn't just happen, it's on purpose.